With all the information and support coming out at the moment through the media in relation to the Irish hospitality sector, I wanted to pop on and have a little chat with the community about the importance of supporting local Irish businesses, especially independent brands. Whereas it is fantastic what the retailers and the large retailers are doing in Ireland in regard to supporting a scale up of small independent producers, we have to be so mindful of the cost entailed in and the investment that it takes in order to get into large scale production. It's so hard to believe that this month our cafe is closed 10 years, and the reason for it at the time, despite the rumours that went around that we were out of business, which was not true, I was in the middle of discussions with investors to fund the business model. When I started the business, it was on a very humble startup capital. I had received support from the local enterprise board, and I decided to do a 10-day pop-up that ended up being a 2-year very successful cafe run on a very tight budget. And at the time, it was just after the property crash. We were in a recession and things were very tight, and I didn't even take a wage from the business. I was very grateful to be on an enterprise allowance where in year one, 100% of my income was supported by the EU, which was only €200 a week, and it was reduced then to 75% on year two. And within those 24 months, I was very successful in getting on phase one of New Frontiers, and I also received grant aid through the local enterprise boards. So I was very, very lucky, and a lot of that grant aid supported building the business model. Then in August 2014, just after trading at Electric Picnic, I was offered investment through an Irish investment company, and that's a long process. There's a lot involved with that, so it took a number of weeks into months for us to get to know each other and see was it a right fit. Just after returning from Electric Picnic in 2014, I got the news from my landlord that he wanted to increase the rent, and he wasn't willing to negotiate, especially going into the winter months, that could he hold off until the spring. And it was a really tough decision at the time. I had just won a place on a bank funded business program down in Cork, and I was being mentored by Dragons, and I took the opportunity to go on the business program where I was introduced to a lot of investors. And I quickly learned that the investment route is not as easy as you would think. It's very attractive being offered all this capital, but you at times are giving an awful lot of your equity away, and you're essentially working in order to pay that back. And whereas it works for some businesses, it's not really something that was aligning comfortably with me at the time. I'm a huge believer in community. I believe in keeping communities alive and supporting communities, supporting independent businesses, and making sure that the jobs are kept within the communities. And whereas it's great to see large brands moving in to communities, we also have to be mindful that they have the capital to be able to pay the rents that the smaller businesses just do not have access to. And it's very attractive if you're a commercial landlord, but a lot of the commercial landlords aren't even from the communities. They have bought these mortgages through investment funds and vulture funds, and they really don't care who is the tenant. They just want their return at the end of the year. And that's something that I wasn't comfortable with going into agreements with the business. it was just going away from the core values that I had. So I looked at other areas. I subleased a production kitchen for a period of time in 2015. And unfortunately, the lady that was running that business had to liquidate her company, and then I no longer had a production kitchen. So I was offered commercial production kitchens over the years, and the kit out was just huge money, far above my reach. And the investors that I had intended on getting into business with, we decided to pull out of that investment when I got sick in 2015, mainly due to an illegal clause that was put into the contract. And I was led to believe by my medics at the time that I only needed one surgery and everything would be fine. One surgery turned into 7 surgeries in 8 years, and during that time I couldn't commit to full-time work, so I had to look at other ways of scaling the business back, adapting to my reality and seeing what I could afford to do and what what was in my reach and what wasn't. And a lot of my income and a lot of my savings had to go on my medical costs. And after 7 years of that, of wondering why I wasn't being treated correctly, thankfully a documentary was exposed. A documentary came out called Below the Belt, which exposed the worldwide endometriosis framework. And we quickly learned that in Ireland we didn't actually have a current framework in place. And now the Department of Health and the Minister has said in the last 3 years that he's investing money into an endometriosis framework in Ireland, but unfortunately that hasn't followed through yet. And because my symptoms were left untreated for so long, and my treatment before that was so outdated, I have so many complications now with my health, even though at times people say to me that I'm looking well. I'm doing well because I understand the lifestyle choices that I need to make to be well. But that doesn't say that I am recovered or in remission. I still have a lot of complications. So where I'm at with the business model, because I had so much time on my hands, I was able to design and complete the business model and then trade as a sole trader at a smaller scale where I can still service some of my customers. We looked at going into large production kitchens. We looked at what that was going to cost, what the repayment was going to be, and at times it was just very much out of our reach. So what I did was I decided to apply for planning permission for a production kitchen in the family property, and there was so many obstacles being put in my way. It's like even on your own land there are so many restrictions. So in order for me to be able to employ people, I would have to build a larger unit. So there's a lot to process, a lot going on. And obviously I've had to manage my health in the meantime. But with all the attention on the hospitality industry at the moment, just be so aware about the type of rents and rates that these businesses are faced with. And it's not a case of businesses putting up prices and trying to rip off their customers. That's the true value of when you add up everything, and that's what the end cost is. And be very, very mindful of what you're eating. When you're out buying in the supermarkets, learn how to read the ingredients. Ultra processed foods will keep people unwell. So you need to learn to see what you're buying if it's processed, and get into the habit of buying raw ingredients and making products yourself, because that is the healthiest way of living. I continue to supply what I can, what I'm legally allowed to supply due to the size of my kitchen, and I focus on being transparent with my ingredients, giving informed consent then to the customer what they want to buy. It's mostly confectionery that we do at the moment because we don't have the setup to be able to do what we want to do. And in time, hopefully that will happen. So I hope you understand where we're at with the Gluten Free Kitchen Company.